Here we are. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be. It's Kate Richburg, and it's time for Beadshop Live. Today, if you're watching us live, it is Wednesday, October 22nd. No, Wednesday, October 27th. I misspoke. And we are celebrating 5 years. Five, count them. I cannot believe it. Cheers to 5 years. It's been 5 fabulous years since we first set up a camera and broadcasted live with 2 weekly shows and a lot of learning. This venture has been such fun thanks to you guys, all of you out there. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. So so that means 5 years of broadcasts once a week, Wednesday broadcasts. It's like 260 shows, about, give or take a little bit, from Wednesday. And then Free Tip Friday is 4 years. We added that like a year later. So that Free Tip Friday, I think I need to raise my brooch a little bit. I'm going to do that while I talk to you. So that Free Tip Friday, if you add those in, it's almost like 500 shows we've done live. And I was joking with the staff today. I'm like, you know what? When a TV show makes its, like 100th show or 500 show or whatever, they roll out like a big cake or whatever. I'm like, where's my big cake? But anyway, so maybe I'll order something later. There we go. I've got my brooch. I've got my pearls. I've got it all. So we are ready to go. Well, I see everyone jumping in and watching, and we really, really appreciate you guys for sticking with us. I know that some of you have been watching from the beginning. Some of you are newer, but we're very, very thankful for all of you guys sticking with us for this long to share in this learning around the bead table. I also wanted to do a big shout out to people who have been with me here in the past, especially some of our earlier episodes Janice and I did together, more of a kind of a Laurel and Hardy kind of thing, or Lucy and Ethel or something kind of thing sometimes, other than more so than learning. But uh, but those were really fun times to do those broadcasts together with Janice. And then, of course, we had some former employees do them with us, which was great. Barandwin ran that camera, and Gracie ran that camera. And so it was really great. And of course, then we had in front of the camera with me for many episodes, we had Emily with us. So Emily will return with us too. And so it's been a really great, fun 5 years doing this. So thank you all for joining us. And of course, we couldn't have done it these 5 years without our wonderful Gita, who from across the miles all the way in Denmark, faithfully week in and week out jumps onto Facebook and does all that moderating. We really, really appreciate it. And of course, Janice, she'll be popping on the YouTube feed shortly to say hello as well. So it's been a group effort, certainly here at beadshop.com, to get us all going, right? So we really, really appreciate you. Over the years, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. And some of you know this background, but I'm going to grab these guys because I have them here. They're a little dusty. I haven't dusted them in a while, but I have them here. And let me get that. That's not very pretty. Some kind of spider going on there. So some of you may remember that we had our brick and mortar store, right? Beadshop.com, which opened in 1982. So next year, Beadshop will be celebrating our 40th anniversary from going from an in-person brick and mortar store and then a store and an online presence, and now just as an online store, but next year, 2022, marks 40 years. But in my time there at Beadshop, I have always, online education has always been big with me, right? I started uh, jumping in and doing videos many years ago, video education, back when they were VHS, right? And so with the VHS, we put out as Beadshop. We had three, and I'm missing one. I need to find it. We've got to have it around somewhere. But Janice did Pearl Knotting Like a Pro on VHS. I did this Wild About Wire class on video, and we also have a stringing one on VHS. And they're seriously, you remember, Be Kind, Rewind, kind of a thing. I think they must still open. Can I get them open? So yeah. So this is how it all started, and then I went on to do a bunch of different multimedia, different companies, different mediums, television, online education, all of that kind of stuff. And so when I came back to Beadshop in 2016, after, a storied career doing all kinds of bead related stuff, including my own store in the city, all of the stuff, right? But I thought in my head, when Janice asked me to come back, I thought, yeah, I'll come back. And then in the back of my head, I said, Janice always kind of let me do what I wanted, right? I don't know. I've been very, very lucky. I come up with an idea and she's all, yeah, make it happen. So I'm all right. So in my head, I thought, you know what? I'm going to broadcast some bead content and I'm going to do it live, because then Facebook streaming, live streaming, was kind of in its infancy, right? Just 5 years ago. And so I jumped in. I didn't really know how to do it, but I did it with I've been doing a little bit, right, on my YouTube channel and stuff like that. So we got my iPad, I put a little lens on it, and we jumped in, right? So that first episode on October 26th of 2016 was the beginning, right? And so we decided every day every week we would broadcast out on Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. So that's a time slot that we've kept, and it's been great. So here's to 5 more wonderful years, or 15 more. I don't know. We're just very many, many more years from that first broadcast. Geeta's saying, I don't know. I don't really want to watch it. Geeta says, I watched the broadcast from 5 years ago yesterday and she loves it. How some people who are in the movies or actors or whatever, they say, no, I never watch my own movies. It's the same with me. I never want to watch those tutorials. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I have no idea if it was any good or not. But anyway, we're going to go back to the Jewel Loom, where it all began. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. We're going to play around. I've got a pattern for you guys to look at and stuff. And so let's get started. All right. So, and again, thank you so much. I'm seeing so many fine, really very sweet comments in the comments. And of course, I do have some giveaways to go on today. So we'll do that a little closer to the end of the broadcast. I have a little baby Jewel Loom and a couple of other things that I'm going to give away at the end of the broadcast there. So stay tuned for those details. So let's, cat hair on me notwithstanding, let's get this show on the road, shall we? So let me add, let me solo what I've got going on here. And, our technology has come a long way. Those first videos, you guys, I cringe, but, technology has really come a long way and has helped us with a lot of our broadcasting. So, so thanks for sticking in there with me. Okay. And so people are asking about the tapes. One of our very fine customers, and I have it here, she actually digitized and sent this one in to us, the Pearl Knotting Like a Pro. So I need to try and get that up so you guys can see it. And then the Wild About wire. I know we can digitize it. I just need to get that going. And if anyone has our third one in the series, our basic stringing techniques, I'd love to see that. That's the one that I did, and you can see our old address there. Facebook was just above us when they were on University Avenue. But it was a lot of fun. It was good times we had with those. So anyway, that's how it all began with VHS, and now we're going out live around the world. It's crazy to think about. All right, so let's go. Let's take a look at what I've done here. So I wanted to start from the beginning. Emily made us this blank loom weaving template. And if you go to beadshop.com, you have a bunch of these templates from Emily that she did for us that you can download and print. Okay. And so I thought, of course, this morning with my move and everything, which went well, we'll talk about it a little more on Friday. Move went well. I'm doing well. Everything's good. We're all happy, including the what do I want to say? Including the cats. Everybody's good. So, and it says Janice is here, but Janice is here as train 66 or something. Okay, so that's good. Well, Janice, we'll get you back up and running there. Train guy 156 is actually Janice. Janice, log out of your Google account and log in as Janice Parsons, and I think you will solve that issue. But I'm sure we'll have you there soon. So this loom weaving, I pulled this out, I printed it out, and I said, you know what? I'm going to work with this. And so I hadn't designed, what a surprise. I didn't design a pattern beforehand. So I got my pens out. I'm just looking at the Janice drama in the comments, so I'm going to ignore that now for the moment. But I got my colored pens out and I started to make a little pattern. And I'm going to walk you through this to show you how I did this. Okay, so what I did was I first started out with the colors. Okay, so we figured we would use 5 colors of seed beads. And I thought, those 5 colors for 5 years. And so Drea and I chose these colors and we were trying to figure out, well, what does this look like kind of thing? And I said, it kind of looks like geodes, right? It kind of has a geode kind of look to it. I don't know. And so I called this project Geode. So then I had no idea how big I was going to make this piece, right? So I thought, well, I'm going to go back and find another project that I made. If you're into the loom weaving, I also have a pattern for this one. This one's called the Illusion Cuff, and I did this early on, probably in the first year of broadcasting. We did this one. And so I thought that the dimensions of this bracelet worked out perfectly. So I measured it and I counted the rows. So my wrist is about 6.5 inches. So I want my bracelet to come out at about 7.5 inches or so, give or take, right? And since this is 8/0, what I did was I measured, and I want this bracelet to come out. This is going to be about 6 inches. Plus, I've got a clasp that I'm going to add, and I can always make my length a little longer or a little shorter using a extender chain. This is circle back. We don't have the extender chain on the project list, but you can add it, okay? And the clasp that I used, these are the ends. I'm not using these tube clasps, though you could. What I'm using for the ends today are the Marrakesh crimps, and it's going to sit Probably about like that. I might actually use 2 jump rings there. Do I have another one sitting here? I think I do. There they are. And you can use, I think I used the 5 millimeter, but you could go a little bit larger. I'll toss out a 6 millimeter here as well. If you have trouble, doing a clasp or whatever, you might want to go a little bit larger. Doesn't make any difference. But that length adds about 1.25 inches or so. Okay, so this comes out, if I do this 6 inches, comes out at about 7.25 inches. Okay, the way that I designed this pattern, and I will say that you don't have to follow this pattern at all. I'm going to show you how I set it up so you can kind of make your own. Okay, so this bracelet here had 49 rows. And it had, I think, 11 rows across. So I wanted to do 10 rows because I thought that would fit this Marrakesh crimp a little bit better. And then I did 49. I designed half of that. So I designed 24 rows here. Then I have a center row of 25. And then I'm going to flip it and do this pattern, repeat the pattern going on down here. Okay. So, so to start, what I did was, and I'm going to put this aside for just a second. So to start, I wanted to figure out how many beads I wanted to go across. So I got a little sewing pin off of my little strawberry pin cushion that I wanted to, and I put these seed beads on, and I wanted to see how wide. It's going to be a little, just a touch wider because of the thread that's in between, but not by much. And then what I did was I put those up and inside this Marrakesh crimp, and you can see I've got like one bead on either side for it. Okay, so that's how this is going to close. Though you can use, we have so many bead looming projects out and about that you can decide how you want to close it. Whatever closure you want to use is fine, right? So you could do this with some leather, our traditional kind of leather closure, the one that we shared the other day, with with this gypsy bracelet that we did, or you could do the closure like this with the tube clasp. So there's a lot of different ways that you could do that. Okay, so so I did it that way, and I just measured and I looked and I said, okay, that's great. So that's what I'm going to do with this. Okay. And so then I went to my loom weaving paper, my grid right here. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to count out 10 rows across. Okay. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 beads across. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw with my Sharpie. I think I've got my big Sharpie here. And I'm going to come in and just mark so I can kind of see where I'm designing. Okay. And then this is 20 rows. So I just went I went all the way down to 20. And then here on this side, I did 22, 23, 24, 25. And then I did 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And drew my little line. like that. Okay, so row 25 here was my center row, right? So that's my center, and I marked that as my center, because then I'll get to row 25 and then I'll go down. This will be row 24, 23, 22, and so on. I'll just follow this pattern, okay? And then I honestly just started coloring in the dots like I was taking a Scantron test, right? You remember those? I don't know if I'm dating myself, but I thought that the gold would be a good, what do I want to say? A good focal, something that really will maybe it's a standout color, right? So this will really balance, I think, or anchor the design. So that's why I chose the gold. And I thought that with this Marrakesh crimp, it's going to cover about 5 rows of beads, okay? And so you're going to see, as it tapers in, you're going to see more of those gold beads. So I just arbitrarily, I got my markers here, and I thought, so row 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these were all going to be gold. Okay, that header. Okay, so now, oh, someone asked, Paulette, you're so smart. What happened to row 21? I didn't do that correctly. 22, 23, 24, and here's 25. So this is my center right here. I have it right on my other one. Thanks for thanks for noticing. Perfect. You guys, thank goodness somebody's keeping me on track. But anyway, so then I just started to continue to fill it in. So on the edges, what I did was I thought I'd put a little colored bead in along the edge, and then I went every 4 like this. And so you can just kind of color in your pattern, which is what I did. And so I scanned this so you can see this exact one. So I scanned it on the scanner in high res, and there's a link here, and Drea is going to put it on the project page on beadshop.com. So you can see I've kind of done this kind of flower-ish kind of pattern here. And over here on this side, Emily made this little space, this little legend here, so that I can write down which beads I'm using. This is Duracoat Galvanized Gold. This is Cobalt Gold Luster. This is Duracoat Galvanized Matte Dark Seafoam. This is Matte Silverline Crystal, and this is Duracoat Dyed Hawthorn. So we take 5 beads here, okay? So now what I'm going to do is we're going to bring the Jewel Loom into play here. So make your own pattern if you want, or you can download this one and follow it off here, okay? So let me get my little pens. If you don't know about these pens, I just love them. I have a thing for pens anyway. These are the Stabilo. They're I love a fine point pen, as you all know. You all might remember Emily has a big thing for pens as well, but I really like these. So I have these guys here in my little tin. So I'm going to set this pattern aside for a second. And let's get the Jewel Loom. So the Jewel Loom is a design made by my buddy Juliana Avalar. She's since gone on to create other different looms as well, but she's a really gifted bead artist, my buddy Jules. You can see her here. You can follow her over on Facebook too for the Jewel Loom. It's great. But you don't have to use the Jewel Loom for this, but I wanted to show you how to use it because it is a fun and easy way to work with this. We have different looming projects where we use the flat bead design board as the loom. I just did that on the one I did with the monthly mix. Or if you have your own loom that's tried and true that you really love, you can play around with that as well. Judy has asked for the blank pattern sheet. Yeah, Judy, if you go over right to beadshop.com, there's a whole pattern blank beading templates list under learning. You'll find it, and you can download all of our blank ones. Okay. Oh, and Gerald's saying that Jules is on Instagram and TikTok too. That's great. You can follow her around, right? Follow her there on social. So the way that the Jewel Loom works is it has these little knobs on it. That's the back, and then this is the front here. It has this little wire, I guess wire bracket, piece of wire here, the heavy wire. And what that does is this is what tensions your loom. So I'm going to put that in just like so. Okay. And so when you tension, when this is in, your loom, kind of your threads are automatically tensioned. So it's really easy to tension your piece as you wrap it, as you wrap your thread. And those of you who do bead weaving know that that's kind of the most difficult part of the tension, is trying to get the tension right on your threads. So, and also we're saying, I'm a weaver from way back, a textile weaver as well, with textiles as well as beads. In the bead world, we kind of call bead weaving as a vernacular, we call it looming, right? And I know that some of you who are weavers, including me, when I put on my weaver's hat, I go, it's not looming, it's actually weaving. But in the bead world, we kind of we use that as our vernacular, and then but you can also call it bead weaving as well. Okay, so I'm going to start. I'm using KO, but you can use whatever type of thread you use. I'm going to use gold KO, and if I have 20 rows or 10 rows across, I'm going to kind of start in the center here, maybe about here, and I'll wind this 10 times around. What I do to start is I'll turn it to the back, and I will tie a little knot. Let me get a little closer down here. There we go. I'll make a little loop, tie that knot, and I'll tie it around that little knob, and then I'll tie it again. So I'm making a square knot, left over right, right over left. Okay, and I'll clip away this extra. And so now I'm going to wrap. I need to wrap 11 times because I need 10 little troughs. Okay, so I'm going to start like here maybe, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to try and get the matching one on the other side. That looks pretty straight. Then on the back, I don't have to go all the way around. I just go around that little knob, and I come back and I lay my thread. Now, depending on the size of the bead that you're using is where you want to wrap. So if you're weaving with larger beads, let's say 6/0 or even like 4 or 5/0 or whatever, you can just move your thread over and you have a wider channel. Okay, and so I think what I'm going to do here, maybe I'll go and I'll skip one. So let me see if it's tight. Let me check it. I don't want it to be too, that looks okay. It'll spread out just a little bit, but I'm going to go with just the one like this. It'll also make it faster and easier for me to count. So let me raise up this camera so you guys can kind of see what I do. And I'm going to kind of do this a little quickly. So I go around the button, I go back up, I find my space, so that's 3, around the button, right back here, that's 4, around the button, I think when I did this 5 years ago, my eyes were a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see it. There we go. And in here, and so can you see how everything is coming together here? So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're halfway there. So bring it around the button, back around. So since this little bar is here, everything that you weave is going to be perfectly tensioned. But I want to caution you not to have your tension too tight in your rows. And I'll show you that as I start to weave with my beads. Because you don't want your piece to warp when it comes off the loom. And that is true for just about every type of weaving, whether you're doing it on a board or a jewel loom like this. Let's count and see where I'm at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I did one too many. Let me double check and count so I'm not wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Okay. So yes, we still want air in between. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to come around and I'm going to knot this off like this. I should have cut a longer piece of thread. There we go. Tighten that up. And I'm going to do one in the opposite direction. Once, we'll go through twice. And these just have to hold everything on. Okay, let me get a little closer so you guys can see that. Okay, and you can use any size of beads, you know, that you're looking for, right? So, or any type of beads that you want to use. So now, pardon me, we're going to remove, see how there's a lot here, right? And you can see I've wrapped around the buttons. Now what I'm going to do is come in. Do I have 10 slots? Let me make sure. 1, 2, there seems to be some controversy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there are 10 slots. Perfect. So I'm going to just take this little bar out. See that there? And you can see here how it's really nice and tensioned. So put this bar aside. Don't lose the bar here, right? So what I would suggest is hang on to your little Jewel Loom package and put it back in. okay, which is what I'm going to do there. So now we're going to start to weave. Now, you can do this a couple of ways. Sometimes when I weave, I start, oh, and Melanie wants to see the back. There's the back. I'll show you, right? So I've gone around to the front, around the button, and around the button, and around, right? So there's no threads that go along the back here, if that makes sense. Okay. And so, oops, let me make sure. Let me make sure that you guys can see this. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I counted the slots instead of the threads. Okay. So here is, here's the loom ready to go. So now you can decide if you want to start in the center or if you want to start from the end. If we start in the center, I'm going to start with my row 25 and back it up this way, and then I'll start in again and go forward this way. Okay? That works, but since I charted this out with the loom like this, I'm just going to start on this end, and I'm going to start here. I'm going to work all the way down, and then when I get to row 25, I'll go down row 24 and then go back down to 1. Okay? So, Leslie says she leaves her bar in place, then she leans her finger on top of it to put the needle through. That's also a good, you could do that. I know that some people do leave that bar. I do it this way because then it's really nicely tensioned, but I've seen that done. Okay. So let me start. I'm going to start with gold. And I see that Christine said, did you open your newsletter? I'm going to share that code with you, that newsletter code with you guys in a prompt. I'm going to do that at the end of the broadcast. We have a really great New Year's sale, or New Year's anniversary sale, right? So you guys can see that at the end of the broadcast. I'm going to use a shorter piece of thread. I don't know. I'm so distracted by all your kind comments. I need to just focus on what I'm doing. I love all these comments that everybody has. In the project, I use size 10 seed bead needles, but here on my beading desk, I have size 10 sharps, which will also work. So that's what I'm going to use. Let me put my pattern over here, and let me put this here, and let me get the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Let me see if I can get, let me see if this will help you guys to see. It's kind of hard to see it, I know. That may be a little bit easier for you to see there. Okay. So I'm going to put 10 beads on. I wound the thread 11 times. I've got 10 slots for my 10 size 8 beads, and that's what my pattern is telling me to do. So the first time that the first row, like anything else, is always a little shaky, but once you get a couple of rows in place, you're going to be fine. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I think I've got 10 beads on here. So the way that I weave, I'm right-handed, okay? So I am coming in underneath my loom, my beads, my threads here. And I could have definitely skipped a little coil up here, but my beads are going to spread these out, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to push each of these beads up into their own little trough. And you just have to be patient. So there are those guys. Almost there. And once I've got all of these guys into place, what I do for this header row is I go through twice, so it's nice and stable. You don't have to, but I like doing it. And if you have trouble getting that thread around there, like I'm having right now, go ahead and use your awl, and that'll help you place that thread. So there I go. I've got those guys. Let's slide the rest of these up. You want to make sure that your warp threads, the threads that are running north to south on this loom, or up and down, you want to make sure you get each individual strand. Come on, there we go. It probably would have been easier if I had skipped those, but that's okay. You guys have seen me in my struggles before with this. On this episode, on this broadcast, it's not. You know what? I just had an epiphany. I had an epiphany struggling with this. Hang on. My struggles are your gain. Instead of starting from the left side, you guys, let's start from the right. I'm going to push that one up in the first trough. Look at that. That only took me 30 years to learn, and stitch it through. I don't know how I did this in the first broadcast, but this is how I'm doing it now. Pop that second one in. Let me get the camera a little bit closer so you guys can see it. And go through. That was smart of me. And see how these are falling into place? I can see that there are two threads right there that are bunched together. So I'm just going to pull my needle through there. These have been locked in. Put this one there. Sometimes our struggles bring us through to the epiphany on the other side, right? Well, you saw it live here on the 5th anniversary broadcast. There we go. That was smart. Slide that guy through. And then once the base row is on, your little troughs are perfectly aligned. Let's make sure, oh, see, I had that double. Go there. Are perfectly aligned to your 8/0. Come on. There we go. Did I put on one too many beads? Let's hope so, because I'm missing a trough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are any of my oh! See right here? My thread is doubled. It's all right. No crying in looming. So I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to go here. I'm going to pull that thread out with my needle. I'm going to move that thread over. Before I do that, I'm going to rethread my needle. And I was going to pre-string this, but I really wanted to show you how to put this together. So I hope you're learning some things from my mistakes here. Not mistakes, but you know, it takes some time to get all of this in there. But once you have this set up, you're going to be good to go. There we go. That one goes in. And this next one. You could also, if you wanted this to be a little bit larger, I used 8/0 for this. You could also use 11s, but 11s, if you haven't done the Jewel Loom before, 11s might actually make you cry real tears. Maybe, because they're small. Those size 11s are small. But you could pop up to 6s. When you wrap, skip a coil, and you'll have a nice big channel to work with. You could also use, if you feel like this KO is a little thin for you, use some micro Ceylon. It will define those bead channels for you a little bit better also. But since I have bead weaving experience, though you wouldn't know it by my performance getting this first row on today, you can use a thinner thread. There we go. All right. So here's my first row, number 1. Now you can see it sits a little wonky like this, right? Like so. If it sits a little wonky, that's why I want to go through my my first row one more time. And I want to show you, let me get this here. Now, if you decide that you want to move things over, let's say that right here, maybe in the middle of your project, you warped this. This is good for the size 11s. But see how I put on these 8s and I'm like, yeah, I don't love how it's making this bunch together. So what you can do, and you can do this with your awl, or you can do it with a crochet hook, is you can move your threads over a bit. So see here, if I wanted to skip that trough, so there's that one there I've skipped. This one here I've skipped. Like so. Now I'll move this one down over here. And this KO is nice and strong, so I'm not really worried. My famous last words about it busting. So here's that one. Of the little tiny bead crochet hook will also work well for this, but the awl works well. So don't be afraid to move these things around. Be bold. There we go. And I'm only going to move this side around for now. But see how I move this over? Okay, like so. So now I'm going to push these up a little bit higher so they're up here at the top. This one got flipped over, but I'm not overly concerned. I could change it. Maybe I will, just so it looks nice. There we go. All right, look at that. So these fit really nicely in there. That's what I want it to look like. That looks right. Okay. So again, with the thread, here's the KO. And you can see how tiny that is, right? I don't know if I like with the KO, the thread really fades to the background, right? If I used micro, let me see if I have any micro sitting here on my table. I think this is micro. That might be fine. Here's micro right here. If I use the micro thread, can you see the difference? You can see that so much better as well on camera, right? Now, let me also say, and I've done this on, where's that sample? See the sample of the illusion cord that I did, the illusion cuff? I did use a mixture of threads on this. I think I actually used fine for the warp threads. Can you see that in there? The fine Ceylon for the warp. The weft, the ones that go from the right to the left, I think I used micro. And so you don't notice it until I really tell you, and it's a little thicker. The cuff is a little more substantial. So if you have some different threads at home, you can play around with how they look. This was a really good from Trudy. I'm going to show this here. Briefly replacing the bar also makes it easier to readjust the threads. Very smart. Very, very smart. Right? And then what Patsy says, I use the middle bar that I take off to move them because it has that hook at the end. That is extremely clever as well. I love it when we learn together. This is great. So play around with your threads. Your warp threads and your weft threads don't have to be the same. Okay. So now that we've gotten that on, let me pull a little more thread. Let me make this tail a little shorter because it's a little long. I want enough tail here to weave back through. So I'm going to leave a little bit, maybe 6 or 7 inches or so. So now, like I was saying way back in the beginning of this broadcast, I weave from the left to the right. But this loom can be turned around. You can do anything with this, right? So you can turn it around, you can loom up, you can weave down. Doesn't make any difference, right? That's the beauty of this loom. It's so light and easy to maneuver. So I'm going to put on 10 beads. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I'll put it through. I go through the bottom. And I did say that I was going to go around the top again. So I'm going to put this through. I'm going to put each of these starting from slot number 10. Then I push them up with my finger. And I want to make sure that I catch all of those beads. Pull it through. And so see, one thread is going underneath, one is coming on the top. Now I'm going to go back through my first row, trying to catch the top row here, just to stabilize it a little bit. And then back through the bottom, and then I'm ready to go. And see how your threads kind of pull in, so it does tighten this just a bit. There we go. So now we're ready. Okay. And so the bar, so this is a good question. So Wendy, this is your bar like so right here. Let me lift it. So I could put the bar back in so it contracts the loom a little bit, so it loosens these threads, and then I can move them around. And see, this has the hook. So see how I can move those threads with this hook? That was a life changer, Trudy. You smarty pants, you. So let me just move these over. Look at that. That's so much easier than this all. Smart. There we go. And so on. I'm not going to do the rest of them, but you can see how that works. Okay. Whoops. Sorry about that. There we go. So let's do our next row. If I'm following my pattern that I had earlier, right here, get this a little bit higher. Oh, Trudy, someone else had the great idea of moving the bar. Well, whoever had to move the bar idea, you all are geniuses. Geniuses. That's why I love learning together. I may be leading the pack on this video, but I learn from you guys all the time, which is beautiful. You know, in this last 5 years of broadcasts, and I've been thinking about it, you know, it's been a fun and interesting road, that's for sure. And we've done a lot of interesting designs and, you know, I don't know, all kinds of fun on here. I think that if I take away a lesson from broadcasting for 5 years, and maybe one to pass on to you guys, is that it's just beads, you guys, right? And though I know that hundreds of you watch me every week doing this live broadcast, I just like keeping it real. So if I fumble, and on some of these broadcasts, you guys, I have fumbled, right? So, but you know, that's how we learn, right? We've got to try, we've got to test it. So I like sharing with you the successes and the challenges. So don't be afraid. Just jump in. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we go. So we've almost completed our first 5 rows. This is 4. And then I'm going to pull my pattern in and we're going to read that first line. This is a great loom also for traveling as people now start to kind of cautiously dip our toes into traveling again. It's so light and really portable, so you can take it with you, especially if you're traveling for the holidays or if you're driving somewhere. This would be a good thing to use in the car because it's kind of compact. It's kind of self-contained. You need a little bead container for your beads, but that's easily remedied. Let's see if that's 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. I like how these gold look. Oh, Rachel said, I just saw either you, Kate, or Emily use the bar on one of your previous broadcasts. Goes to show you that I have no memory of that, but that's terribly clever. I don't know. I've got so many bead. I feel like my brain is like one giant bead encyclopedia and or Rolodex, right? And sometimes I have to like sort through that Rolodex to get to the right technique. But usually I can get there, hopefully. So here's 5 rows, and it goes by quickly. This goes fast. right? And Leslie said, I can't bead and drive. That is for sure. So I would actually be of course, I'd be the passenger, right? Of course. Though here on the freeways in Silicon Valley, sometimes you never know if it's a self-driving car or not. And if you see someone that that is, driving and not paying attention, you hope that they are in a self-driving car. Usually they are, but you never know. So, and we see them all around this area. It's very interesting. So let's get this set up. I did not kit this up beforehand. So let's go ahead and dump out some of our beads. The little brown here, that color key, that brown corresponds to the hawthorn because I use the gold color pen to be the shiny gold. So let's get a few of these going. I've got another little triangle right here. These triangles are super handy. I like the way that purple looks. And I'm using both, I'm using the same thread, Allie, for the warp and the weft. So the warp of your loom is the thread that goes up and down, north to south, I like to say. The weft is what goes right to left. Okay. So here we go. Oh, I like this, Curtis. We need little bead shop diplomas for attending bead classes these 5 years. I should design one that you can download yourself and put it up. That's pretty funny, right? So now here, let me read my first row. Row 6. So 1 gold, 2 blue, 3, 4 hawthorn, and then I just reversed it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 of the blue, and 1 gold. Okay, like that. So, I love that Janice is on here as train guy. That's really funny. So if you're watching this on repeat and you all of a sudden see the comments and you see comments by train guy, that is Janice's grandson Eli, who has logged in as himself, probably to watch trains because Eli loves trains. And so Janice now is stuck with train guy 156. So I looked on it and I saw train guy 156 commenting, and I was like, who's train guy 156 and do I have to ban them? So Janice, I'm glad I didn't ban you. It's all good. We'll figure it out. There's always some excitement going on here. So today's excitement is train guy. Oh, my warp wires, these are crossed. Well, that's okay. I'll uncross them down here. But thank you for noticing. Thank goodness you guys keep me on track as I'm doing this. There we go. So this is row number 7. I'm just going to do a few of these and then we will continue on here. So just bear with me. I want to see how this works up because I did the design without actually seeing how it looks from the design on the paper to the design on the beads. So here's that one. So now let's go to row 8. So 1 gold. Let me set myself up for success so everything is over here. A gold, 2 hawthorn, 1 and 2, and 4 of these cobalt luster. I love these. I wanted this pattern, and you can decide what colors work for you, right? If you don't dig the colors that I have chosen for you, switch it up. I wanted something with high contrast today. Okay, so I tried to use beads that had high contrast. So the gold and the hawthorn aren't a super high contrast, but I think they're contrasty enough. I think it's kind of cool, right? Okay, so that one there. So now we go to row 9. So I'm going to go to the gold, the hawthorn. This is the row that I really wanted to see. The cobalt, 4 of the crystal. This matte, I also tried to mix up the finishes of the beads. So some were shiny, some were matte. That will help with your contrast of the design as well. One of these guys, one of the hawthorn, and one of the gold. As I said, if the 8/0 aren't your jam, go to 6/0 and play around with that. I wanted that, yeah, look at that glow of that high contrast. That looks pretty darn good if I do say so myself. So let's go to this one here, this blue, 2 white, 1 and 2, 2 of the gold in the center, and then reverse it, or mirror it, as they say. I'm using, in the project, on the project page, I tell you to use size 10 beading needles, but I'm actually using size 10 sharps on here because that's what I had on my table. But either will work. Yeah, look at that. That's looking okay. Thank goodness. So now I just have to reverse it down. It does have a little bit of a face look to it, but hopefully when I reverse it down, it'll look a little more like a flower motif than a face motif, but we'll see. So now what I do, since I was the one who designed this pattern, I know that I simply just reverse this down. So I'm going to just not even look at the pattern. I'm going to look at the row above it because sometimes that's easier for me to read. So that there, unless I have a mistake in the pattern, which I hope I don't, but you never know with me, since I do these kind of literally sometimes off the cuff. But I think you'll enjoy playing with the blank sheet. You know, just get your pencils or your colored pencils or your colored pens and just start coloring them in, coloring in the little circles. And you can see once you've got this going, it's a lot easier to get those beads right into the channel. Oh yeah, that looks good. And I check my work. I check this row against that row. I'm just going to complete this motif so we can take a look and see how it looks. So now I go to this one. There's a gold. There's 2 hawthorn, 4 of the blue. And you can make your cuff a little bit wider. I did 10 because that kind of fit the Marrakesh crimp. But you can have overhang with that Marrakesh crimp. It doesn't have to be the exact width. So you can do that overhang and it's no problem. I just did the 10 because that's what I went with. But you do you. Okay. So there we go. We'll go underneath. And as Melanie is saying in the comments, it is very meditative. It's a really, yeah, I think that looks pretty nice. And I like the contrast. I don't use a white bead that often, right? But I think it looks pretty good. So a gold, it really pops. That color really pops. There's the gold. One blue. I had to find where I was. I couldn't read the pattern. 2 hawthorn. two of this cobalt. This cobalt gold luster really reads to me as kind of a purpley color, which I like a lot with that. I like the combo of purple and yellow, or purple and mustard, kind of. That blue and this one here. Then we've got one more row for the motif, and then that motif will be complete. Then we're about a third of the way through. There we go. And I'll show you how I change threads. Okay, so you can have that in your beading techniques. But we weave out just as we weave in, and just how we weave ends in. So don't be afraid to change threads. I find for me, it's easier, I think, to change threads sometimes a little more often than have a really long piece of thread that constantly gets tangled. So here's my last row. There we have it. Okay. So this would also be kind of a cool motif. You can see how that's coming together, right? This would be a cool motif. I could just put 5 more right there, 5 more rows if I wanted this to really stand out. I could also have started with one motif in the center and worked my way out to the sides, right? So my row, where am I with this? So I do kind of a reset row right here. So I'll put that row in too. So I'm actually right here on row 15. I ended up here. So row 15 is this kind of reset row, and then the motif continues again. So let me do that. Let me just do that row, and then I'll weave these back through. So one of these guys, 3 of these, 1, 2, and 3, 2 of these blue, 1 and 2, and then mirror, 1, 2, and 3, and 1. Okay. Ronnie says, and this is a really good thing to think about, in your quilting, contrast is mostly by color or intensity. I love the added options that bead finishes give our work. It's really true, Ronnie. You know, I also quilt. I love quilting and textile work. But when it's textiles, and usually when you're quilting, you're just using, if you're doing traditional quilting, you're just using like cotton, right? You're not using like velvet plus some lame plus something with sequins, though you could, you know, if you're doing crazy quilting or whatever. So you really change with the intensity and the colors and stuff. And so I do agree that beadwork, being able to put in a matte finish or a shiny finish or whatever, really changes up that intensity, which is cool. So here's that reset row, and I'm going to come back with that pattern. And so there are 3 patterns there. Now, let's say that I go along and I weave this out, and let's say I'm a little short, right? For whatever reason, maybe the threads in this one were a little bit wider, so it made the cuff a little bit, you know, a little bit longer or whatever. I have plenty of room here at the top, as well as enough thread. I could always weave in some more thread to weave in a little more length here. So I could add just some plain gold rows. I could add like a row or 2 of this purple up here, right? So you can go up like this to elongate it once you have this pattern, which will go about here, and then you can measure it, how long it'll be. And again, if you need to add at the top and then add at the bottom. but this is already 1.75 inches right here. So it does go pretty fast. So, um, Christine Whitney asks, and it's a good question, but what's the difference in a sharps needle and a beading needle? Let me show you. I have the world's tiniest. I have a size, I think this might even be a 15 from way back in the day when we carried 15s. We don't, let me see if I've got one that's, here we go. This is a size 10. Let me hold this one in my hand and this one in my hand. So these are both size 10 beading needles. Okay. One is a sharps, which means it's a shorter needle. Okay. We use sharps a lot. I use them a lot in my in the costume shop when I was sewing. Okay. Stitching, hand stitching. I use this sharp because it's fairly rigid and it's short, and so it's easy to wield, easy to maneuver. Okay. This long one, this is the beading needle here, this size 10. The size 10 refers to the diameter of the needle. So a size 12 is thinner, a size 13 is thinner, 14, and so on. This size 10, you can also see that the needle, the eye on this needle, I don't know if you can, gosh, my hands are so grubby. Sorry, I've been working with pens and stuff that doesn't look very nice, but you can see, there you go, that eye of the needle is a lot bigger. Okay, it's a lot longer. So, and this, the needle is a little more pliable, bends a little bit like this. So especially if I'm stitching or things like that, peyote stitch, stuff like this needle is a little more flexible. So sometimes it's easy for me to turn a corner if I'm doing a tight circle or something like that. So this would be preferable. For stuff like that. The sharps, I like a short needle, and you can see it's not that flexible. It's fairly rigid. I think that I'm so used to the sharps because I did a lot of handwork. Like I also use this sometimes, like for sewing on buttons or whatever. All my hand sewing I do with this, right? Embroidery needles are a little bit different in that the embroidery needles, the eye is a little bit bigger. So I'm really used to wielding this needle that's short, right? So that's what I work with. But either one will work for you. So let me show you. Let's switch threads real quick. But before I do that, I want to have you guys. I want to talk real quick about our drawing that we have. And I noticed that some of you have noticed my bracelet. This is the bracelet that I made, I don't know, a while back. I used I'm glad you guys noticed. Gosh, this clasp is so good. It's so tight on here. I used the special delivery clasp that we carry in magnetic clasp. And I put one of my handmade beads on it like this. And then these are things, I'm glad you guys like them because I am in love with them. We're going to start carrying these new crimps for leather. They're actually meant for wire, I think, but I'm using them for leather in 1 millimeter, 1.5, and 0.5. And so they just stack like this. So you make little bangles out of your strands of leather, right? And they just roll on. I made them yesterday and I've worn them 24 hours. I even wore them in the shower. If you wear them in the shower, they're going to break, right? Eventually. But I think they're kind of fun. So these are coming down the pike. I hope you guys like them. We're going to get these crimps in some different finishes and stuff. But I've got a special crimping plier for them and everything. They're really super strong. So yeah, they're originally made for wire, but I'm using them for leather, and we've got some special leather coming in for those. So a lot of times the beads just kind of fall to the back, but you can kind of play around with them. So I like them a lot. I'm glad you guys like them. So those will be coming. All right. Let's do the giveaway. So As you know, you guys, when we do our giveaways, you need to, if you're watching in our Facebook group only, if you're watching via the bead table, if you're watching on our YouTube channel or our beadshop.com page, there is no need for you to do this. But since groups are private, you have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and hit let StreamYard see your Facebook Live comments. Okay, and that will grant StreamYard permission so I see who it is rather than just Facebook user. And you guys, if you do enter, stick around to the end. I've got a couple of prizes that are still sitting on my desk that people have not claimed. So if you have won from other drawings and you haven't received your prize, email us, you guys, at info@beadshop.com. And I think the person who's watching who won my set of earrings when I did the broadcast for my Great Bead Extravaganza Takeover Day, Wendy, if you're watching, I still have not gotten your mailing address on that. So email it over to info@beadshop.com and I'll get it there. As well. I was going to try and hunt you down, but I think I saw you in the comments. So if I can get you your info that way, that will be awesome. So what you're going to do for, whoops, that's, why do these never save? We're going to enter in the comments, you are going to enter #5 for our 5th anniversary here. #5 in the comments to enter. You can enter as many times as you want, but StreamYard, our giveaway tool, is only going to see you once. Okay, so start entering that #5, and you can see I'm going to give away 3 things today. In honor of Emily, I wish she could have joined us today. She's a busy girl, doing a lot of jewelry, doing a lot of work and stuff. But you remember when Emily did the Heart on My Sleeve project? We did some kits for them, and I have a few that are socked away. So I've got 2 of these, the Heart on My Sleeve, because we heart you guys for 5 years. The Heart on My Sleeve, blue velvet. If you go to the Heart on My Sleeve project page, you'll see there's an episode notes from that episode with all the instructions for them, right? We did this back in 2018. So I've got 2 of those to give away. And I also have 1 of the Jewel Looms, but it's the baby Jewel Loom. It's the small one, which is kind of cool. So you can make little pendants and stuff like that on this. So keep entering #5 in the comments. And I wanted to mention that the giveaway entries are accepted on this live broadcast today only, the 27th of October, on this live broadcast. If you miss it, though, join us for our other live broadcasts. I'm giving away all kinds of fun stuff, so I think you guys are enjoying. So, #5. Okay, so while that's rolling around, while you guys are commenting, and the comments are blowing up, I love it, and I can see your names. That's awesome, right? That's great. Good. Okay, let me show you a real quick thread change while you guys are commenting. I'm going to cut my new thread, and I add my thread before I weave my thread out. Okay, so I'm going to get another needle with my sharps, and I will thread it up. So my goal, needle the thread, not thread the needle. There we go, as Emily says. I'm going to weave down, add my thread, and weave it down to where it needs to exit. Okay, then I'm going to weave this old thread back up. So I always add my new thread before I take away my old thread. And yes, Christine, for those of you, that's correct. For those of you who did the number 5, you need to spell it out. Yes, right? So hashtag 5. Okay. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to weave it back and forth, do some weaving. And I'll turn the corner, and there's no right or wrong except when you lose that needle. I'm going to turn the corner there. You have all kinds of threads that, whoops, that's not the right place. So I'm just going to pull that through. There we go. I'll turn the corner up here. And I don't always go to the edge, but I make like a little square right here. All of your kind comments, you guys. I'm sorry, I feel like I've been a little bit distracted today. You know, our old format, I either had Barandowin filming and reading me the comments, or when Emily and I were doing it, or when Janice and I were doing them together, I had people reading the comments. I had a whole crew, or Grace doing that. Now I am doing this all myself. I am the camera woman. I am the comment curator. I'm the talent. I also got this tangled, so I'm just going to remove my needle. So sometimes I get super distracted by your comments, so sorry about that. But thank you so much for each and every one of your kind comments today. It really means a lot. Then I'll come and I'll take away my old thread. So here's my new thread here. And I'll just take away my old thread and I'll just weave it back. And weave it a few rows. Since I wove my other thread in through here, I'll kind of weave my other one kind of down over here. Because remember, with the Jewel Loom, you're going to do the same thing with the Jewel Loom, with your warp threads. When you cut it off the loom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this for Friday's broadcast. I'm going to finish the weaving. And then on Friday's broadcast, I'll cut it off the loom for you guys. Okay, so you can see that, me do that live. And then we'll talk about finishing. We're also going to do Bead Doctor on Friday. We're going to do that a little bit early. So that'll be a part of our Bead Doctor broadcast there. Okay, so that's done. And here is my new thread, and I'll just continue on. Okay, so that's it. That's how we weave. Okay, so let's see that, let's make sure, I'm going to go back to me. So first, let me add in our giveaway tool. Bear with me here just a second. There it is. Okay. And so we have, why aren't our entries showing here? Bear with me here just a second. Hang on. Let me unshare this and let me just redo this and it'll pick it up. I had it all set yesterday. There we go. There we go. I got them. Let me add this to the stream. There we are. All right. Let's see who is going to win. For the first one, we'll do this. We'll do a heart on my sleeve. Then we'll do a Jewel Loom. Then we'll do another heart on my sleeve. Let's go. I'm so serious. I feel like I'm so serious. Let's have some levity. All right, here we go. Let me take a bracing cup of coffee. Drink a coffee. Who's it going to be? Judy Stewart, who is watching on our on our YouTube channel. Judy, this is yours. You're going to email, let me put this up. You are going to email your mailing information right to info@beadshop.com. Judy, I'm going to put your name right on this Post-it note. That one's for you. Let's do this for the Jewel Loom. Next, shall we do another one? I say yes. Let's do it again. There we go. Alistine, you are the winner watching on YouTube. That Jewel Loom's coming out to you as soon as you email your mailing information to info@beadshop.com. There it is there. And last but not least, let's do one more. We're running over today just a little bit, but you know, it's our anniversary show. And Charlotte, oops, there went my tape measure. So email us over at info@beadshop.com and these will go right out. If you've been a winner and you have not received your winnings, I have 2 unclaimed prizes. So email us at info@beadshop.com and we'll get those out to you. Okay. So that is that. Let me stop sharing that screen. There we are. And let me go and take that off and let me go here to our comments and see what we've got going on. Okay, great. Good. Well, also, gang, let me put this. Let me make myself a little bit bigger. There we go. As you know, if you opened your newsletter today, and Christine alluded to this earlier, if you have not joined our newsletter, you really want to do so because, you guys, we had on our homepage today, we've got a coupon offer for our 5-year anniversary. It's only good for today. But if you got your newsletter, this is the coupon code that you got. Good for today only. So if you're watching this live, October 27th, 2021, for our 5-year broadcasting anniversary, you take 30% off store-wide. We very rarely do a sale this big. Very, very rarely. Use coupon code ANNI, ANNI 30 at checkout. Okay, so you can grab your Jewel Loom. You can grab all this stuff. I'm going to peek out here. You can grab all this stuff right here using this coupon code. So if you haven't followed us on our social, go over to beadshop.com on our Insta. Join us over at the Bead Table on Facebook. And I've got a few of you, sorry, with my move, I was a little behind. So I'm going to go in and approve all the pending applications there at the Bead Table. So sorry, I was a little tardy about that. And you can like and subscribe us right on beadshop.com. And of course, thank you so much for watching. You can find all of the information on the project and the products from today's broadcast right on our website. You can find those blank templates, all of the supplies for this geode bracelet. And again, do remember, sign up for our newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products. So that, you guys, does it for me. It is our cheers to 5 years. I can see you right down here. to 5 years. It's been a fabulous 5 years since we first set up a camera and broadcasted live. With 2 weekly shows and a lot of learning, this venture has been such fun. Thanks to all of you guys out there. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. We could not have done this without you. So here is to many more amazing years of broadcasting. We really, our small business appreciates you so much, okay, because without you being out there, we being here couldn't do what we love. I'll see you on Friday for Free Tip Friday. Janice is going to join me because it's our Bead Doctor segment. So if you have any questions, email those over to Drea at info@beadshop.com and we will answer them. I will also cut this loomed piece off of the Jewel Loom live on air so you can see that. So that'll finish off this segment. Thank you guys ever so much. I really appreciate it. Again, I was a little distracted today because I see all of your wonderful comments right over there on the side. I really, really appreciate that. So thank you, thank you, thank you from all of us here at Bead Shop. And I will see you Friday with Janice for Bead Doctor on Free Tip Friday. Thanks so much, everybody. See you then.